Now, let's discuss how to actually write a report. We'll walk through the practical process of writing assessment reports using our portal, which was built for this purpose. I'll highlight important features and talk through best practices for how to write a report efficiently. Jackie and I will talk you through different strategies. As a reminder, you should and can start writing your report as soon as S2 is complete. You can write it directly in the report writer or start it in the DSM prep form. The interfaces are fairly parallel. I'm going to show you what it looks like if you go straight to the report writer. So this is the client I'll be writing for, and as I cross across here, I can see Go to Report. Before you can access the report writing portal, you'll need to confirm the client details. It's very important to ensure that you're using the client's preferred name and pronouns, and to make sure that we have the references relations listed appropriately. Once you proceed from this screen, it's not possible to easily change these fields. Also, it's not working on my demo case, but on the right-hand side, you'll also generally see some summary metrics for all of the rating forms. Notably, if this is typed in this way, in all caps, that's exactly how it will transfer into the report. So making sure that these are lowercase, that everything is spelled correctly, will save you a lot of trouble on the back end. Once we hit proceed, you'll see the report writing portal generate with a custom template for your case. You'll spend 95% of your report writing time in this expand experience, which is shown here. So let me acquaint you. All the sections are similar. There is a template with a text editor, like a Word doc or a Google Doc, on the left hand, and all of the information you need on the right-hand side is in these tabs. You'll see as I move through this demo that the tabs in each section may differ given the relevant information required to complete it. Another important detail is that the portal auto-saves as you go, but you'll notice there's also a save and close button if you want to write your report in a few sittings. So let's start with the background section. To save you time, this section can be auto-generated as you see here. With the use of AI, this pulls from the intake form and S1. When you're in the pop-out, if you don't see this, you can click this button up here that says Generate Content, and this is what it will look like when it appears, and you can copy and paste. However, it is imperative that you thoroughly read and edit this for clarity and correctness. AI is a tool and not a replacement for your clinical judgment. Read every word, make sure it accurately reflects what the client told you, correct any errors or misrepresentations. This section sets the foundation for your entire report, so it needs to be right. Lastly, I'll point out the arrows in this bottom left corner where you can navigate between sections without needing to exit out. This will take me through my evaluation tools. And this is our behavior observations. Wherever possible, we try to insert or provide you with relevant content. Just like in the background section, we ask you that you ensure all important details are included. This behavior observation section should reflect what you actually saw in the session with the client. Remember, this is the reader's only opportunity to truly understand what the experience was like for you in the room with the client. Now, we will move into the different diagnostic domains. This is where we have really helpful systems in place. We have a robust template in place for this process, and we follow the same format for each domain section. Information from the clinical interview, including the childhood components, behavior observations, and then we automate all of the rating forms that are included. So on a self-report rating form, on an other rating form, and then any supplemental information as available. On the right-hand side, we'll have the same tabs for all the domains. Forms, which has all of the rating forms and supplemental forms if appropriate, and if they have been filled out. Charting, which contains all of the charting notes that you took, as well as AI recommended synthesis. The DSM form, this will show you any of the notes from your DSM form, which is also called your S3 prep. So if you prefer to start writing your report there, This is where you'll see everything you've already written. The intake. This is a static copy. You won't likely need it, but it's there in case you'd like to reference it. And lastly, a quality check. This can be accessed here and here, and this I will tell you about in a few minutes. On the top, you can see up here that we have a color-coded box, which is our DSM-5 rating that you indicated when you filled out your DSM prep form. As I showed you in the report walkthrough, we automatically include an introductory sentence that includes information about this rating. So please make sure what you're writing matches whatever it is that's indicated here. If you need to, you can click on this, which will take you back to that report writer or the DSM form, where if you need to make adjustments, you can as you go. So let's talk about how you'll actually write the report. The easiest way to write these sections is to copy paste the information from the yellow box and then follow it with a supporting sentence. That is the client's words. So let me explain what I mean by this. These yellow boxes that have these little exclamation points in them contain synthesized information from your clinical interview. This language has been carefully developed to accurately capture common presentations. By using these short sentences, we're able to capture common presentations, and we're then also able to ensure consistency and clarity across reports. After you include this, then you'll add a supporting sentence that includes something that the client actually said. That gives specific examples or additional details that's specific to them. This combination, these short sentences plus a supporting sentence, should be both comprehensive and clear to the reader of the report. However, when you're in your report writer, you will also have this AI box that will populate and will also be yellow. Notably, this AI populated box follows the description that I just shared with you, which takes the small yellow box information plus a sentence down here about what the client actually said to give you a comprehensive overview of what that client's presentation is like. If you would like to use the AI box, that's great. And you don't then need to add additional information unless the AI did something wrong or explained something in a way that's not clear. It is imperative that you're checking this AI for anything that might be incorrect, improperly stated, doesn't feel accurate to the client. But if you're using these AI boxes, you do not then also need to use the information from these yellow boxes and a supporting sentence to add. That would be a lot, so please don't worry about that. If you're using the AI, it's okay to just lean on that and make sure that that is robust. The goal here, in general, is to make sure that each domain is thorough enough that the reader understands the client's presentation, but not so verbose that the report becomes difficult to read or very time-consuming to write. So, as a final part of this video, let me show how I'll put the clinical interview together. Um, The way that I will write this is without the use of the AI boxes. As you can see, nothing populates here because I'm in a different version of the portal than you will be. Mine is specifically made for these videos, so this is not true client information. This is all sort of aggregate. If you are using the AI boxes, it's okay to copy paste and then edit as needed. I will be doing the longer version where I use the short sentences here and then add, which is the much more manual version. So this template covers everything that I just talked about, so I'm actually going to just delete that and start at the top. In clinical interviews, Avery described, I'm just going to copy paste this in here. This duplicated a couple things. In clinical interviews, Avery described that she dislikes small talk, but can manage in situations where it's expected. And now I'm going to go down here and add in another sentence. She described that her comfort depends on who she is with and that she is willing to listen to others, but prefers deep conversation to small talk. She described that in the past, she has been very uncomfortable engaging, oops, in small talk. I did two sentences here for each, a little sentence about this and a little sentence about this. Then I'm going to copy the next yellow box. This says that she will start a conversation with others only when it relates to a preferred topic, such as talking about an area of interest. She reported that she often doesn't know what to say to others unless it's about a topic of interest. I will then continue this exact same pattern, yellow box information, supporting sentences, all the way down, including childhood. So in childhood, she reported that she described that she often took things literally and mostly sat and listened to others speak rather than engaging herself. You can't see it on your side. Zoom doesn't really love it, and I'm not sure why, but as I'm writing, I am getting Grammarly notifications that tell me that I've spelled things wrong and that my grammar is not perfect in some areas. You will also have this on your side, and you'll be able to very easily utilize that in your report writing. If I was going to do this section with the use of AI, I would have some pretty specific information in here that captures exactly what this idea here is. These yellow boxes and supporting sentences. So if you're using the AI, no need to double up on that kind of information. Next, you'll see that we have included some domain-specific behavior observations, which you'll find in the charting section, and you'll insert them into the report. If this was a real client, I would have up here above this section some information about what I said, how they engaged with me, what they were like to be in the testing. Then we have these rating forms. These automatically create content for you, and we've automatically included the items that are clinically relevant and most indicative of autism. You can find all of the rating forms under Forms, and if you'd like, you can click on either clinically relevant ratings, or if you'd like to see all responses, you can click on this and it will show you absolutely everything, even if it wasn't endorsed. Finally, the last part of each domain is to include supplemental information. If this exists, it will also populate under this Forms tab, and you can include one or two sentences to explain what information was provided. Please do not just copy paste what they said whole into this. Please use a little bit of clinical discretion and summarize rather than putting it all in, as sometimes there is typos or interesting spelling. Please make sure to double check before you just copy paste. Before we move on to the next section, I encourage you to quickly review your work, and we have two ways to do this. The quality check is a perfect way to get feedback that is Prosper specific and identifies issues like inconsistent pronouns. We highly recommend using this in each section before moving on. Additionally, as I mentioned, we have Grammarly for all of our psychologists. And although you can't see it in here, Grammarly is underlining errors and providing suggestions for my writing, which are quickly accepted to make my writing sound better. When you run a quality check, this is what it will look like. Anything red definitely needs attention. These tell me that I have incomplete sentence fragments, that my curly brackets are still in here, which means that I haven't fully moved through the template. There is also smaller issues like inconsistent sentence structure. Obviously, this is going to catch a lot because I haven't fully done this section, but these are very helpful. An important note is once you run this once and fix things over here, if you regenerate it, it will always look for things to find. So if you run it again and see more and different things or even contradictory things, that's okay. Please just run this once, maybe twice in each section before turning it in, just to make sure that there's nothing significant or outlying that need to be addressed before you submit. When I do this, I will write my whole report. Then I'll go back and use my Grammarly in each section and my quality check in each section before I submit. It takes much less time. Before we wrap up, I just want to talk you through a couple more sections. So I'm going to scroll through this is nonverbal, relationships, repetitive behaviors, need for routines and sameness, interests, sensory, and childhood. The childhood and functional impact sections will look a little different. Their content won't follow the same pattern as criterion A and B domains will. In childhood, if there is an SCQ reporter, which is not required but highly recommended, all relevant ratings from the SCQ will populate into this forms section. It will also populate over here into the report itself. Then we'll always comment on what was shared in the supplementals. In here, you can see that Mom filled out a supplemental, and we have a lot of really good information from Mom in here that we will synthesize and include. We will then also always comment about what the client said about their childhood. A really easy way to do this and to make sure this is really robust is under the charting notes up here, you'll see that we have the early history information that we took down during S1, how we were at 5, 10, 15, supports in school, language skills, all of those kinds of things, and all of that will be included. But then what I also do is I go through each of the 7 domains that we talk about that are relevant to autism, social emotional reciprocity, nonverbal communication, relationships, and I'll do about a sentence per domain from the information we've gathered about those 7 domains. That way, it's all encompassing and very clear. So, for example, what I might do is after I have added in all of the information about when we asked about early childhood, is I'll come down to social emotional reciprocity and say, regarding reciprocity in childhood, she reported that she struggled to understand idioms. She often watched rather than joined conversation, and she struggled with jokes non-verbally. And then I'll scroll down to what she said about childhood regarding nonverbal. She described not understanding how others were feeling based on their face, but learning how to observe over time. And I will do this for each of the 7 sections, adding one about relationships, repetitive, sameness, etc., all the way down. And that way we're really being clear about what it is that we saw in childhood and what we see now. For functional impact, we will again address both what the reporter said about the ABAS, which is automatically included, as well as what the client said about these challenges for themselves. These are very clearly covered in the template, and being thoughtful about what the client endorses as their challenges is key. Finally, I would like to show you mm, finally, a last note is once you have decided on whether a client meets a diagnosis or not, in the S3 prep, you will be given options for things like recommendations. I can't see it in here because this client is not a real client, but what you'll see on your side is that we have a lot of different recommendations and ideas for clients, and this is really where we can add a lot of value for the client. So as you work through those, please make sure that you're being thoughtful about what clients could best utilize. For example, if you have a client with executive functioning challenges who also needs better med management, then you can insert recommendations around both of those. When you're done with all of your sections, you'll be ready to submit your report. The first couple of reports will take you 3 to 4 hours, but by your third or fourth, you should be closer to 2.5. I assure you that your very first section is the hardest to write, and it will become easier as you complete your first report. Think of these templates as your checklist. They're particularly helpful when you're new to report writing or you're working with a surprising presentation. Notably, it is very surprising to some that we don't report T-scores on our reports and instead focus on item analysis. The reason for this is simple. Item analysis drives to the heart of what we're asking about in a way that T-scores don't meaningfully capture. In addition to the clinical interview on each domain, you'll also be reporting on the forms that you filled out for the client, things like self-report measures, collateral reports, as we discussed. You'll need to check them for correctness and explain any discrepancies as needed. For example, if in this section, the client who gave us a lot of really good information about autistic behaviors in childhood, if I looked at this mom supplemental and it didn't align, it wasn't exactly what we thought or what, we weren't seeing reciprocity between the both of those, we would need to explain that. Maybe the client minimizes their difficulties due to masking, and their mom just doesn't see the same way that they would expect, that we would expect for somebody who was more forthcoming with that parent. Additionally, the interference of any co-occurring conditions like trauma should be explained in the relevant sections. Trauma might impact social communication, sensory processing, or emotional regulations in ways that complicate the diagnostic picture. Adding this into the background section and the childhood section, or any areas where it's needed, really help clear up that picture for readers. Now let's talk about the practical workflow of actually writing your report. There's 2 main options. Both are totally acceptable. It's just a matter of what works best for you and for your brain. Option 1, you can write your report directly into this report writer as we did today. This provides all of the information that you need and exactly in the right spots. As needed, you can then use this to add to the DSM form. Option 2 is to use the DSM or S3 prep as they are interchangeably named. You can use this to write the clinical interview sections of your report. This is very appealing to many clinicians because if you write in the S3 prep and then copy and paste it into here, you're basically writing the report in a way that you can read to the client in the feedback session. The templates for each domain are available for you to utilize in the S3 prep form, as I showed you. And with this approach, you prepare your clinical summaries for each domain in the S3 prep form and share that with the client in feedback, and you can get their input and confirmation that you've understood them correctly, or that you can move that in and then move that information over in the report writer once you're done. You'll still need to make necessary edits before submitting, including these quality checks and Grammarly. But for the most part, you've essentially done double duty. You've prepared for the feedback and drafted the report at the same time. Neither approach is better or worse. Some clinicians prefer having everything in one place, like in this report writer. Others prefer the workflow of writing for the feedback session first. Experiment with both and see what feels most natural for you and for your process.